Hello and welcome to Niaga Spotlight with me, Tamina Kausji. Niaga Spotlight goes through the week in business and future affairs, market watch, industries, analysis and insights. We've got you covered right here on Niaga Spotlight. Well, this week on analysis, we're looking at unified commerce and business sustainability. Now, the total internet economy for Southeast Asia is forecast to grow from about 194 billion USD to over 330 billion USD just by 2025. Now, Malaysia also comes in at fourth largest of this region's markets with an internet economy worth around 23 billion USD in 2023. Latest data also shows, interestingly enough, that 57% of Southeast Asian consumers use e-commerce marketplaces for new product discovery. 50% of us use social media channels and 40% still rely on Google search. Today on Niaga Spotlight, our discussion focuses on the importance of digital strategy for capturing international online sales as well as market share and the bigger picture. Yienyee Soh, currently the Chief Relationship Officer of EasyStore, joins me now in the studios for the discussion. Yienyee, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. Thanks so much for making time. YY, may I call you that?
Sure.
Okay, so YY, tell me a little bit about, for those who may be unfamiliar with the terminology, let's get that clear first. What exactly is unified commerce to get the ball rolling?
Sure. So I think e-commerce in particular, buying online, has evolved in such a way where we have a lot of options. Those days it was a Google search. Like you said earlier, people can now discover things via their social media. So that's a digital word of mouth. We have marketplaces and we have so many different formats of shopping. Unified commerce basically is a business strategy that combines all the different touch points where the customer can discover, search, and find your products online. Now, as a business owner, how would you connect all these channels and be able to provide a single unified customer experience? Because it is the same customer shopping on all these platforms.
Sure.
For example, I might go into store, I see a product I like, but hey, I can't find my shoe size. I can then quickly pull up the e-commerce site, see what sizes are available, where can I pick it up, or even deliver it online. Now, as a business owner, it's important to be able to connect all of this in one place, streamline internal operations because you're sharing the same inventory, and most of all, personalize this experience for the buyer themselves.
Exactly. So it's all about all of this happening via what we call the omni-channel, right?
Yep.
And the omni-channel wise, at least, so what kind of businesses really stand to benefit the most? The size and the type, particularly what, in your experience, you have seen across the Malaysian landscape?
So in Malaysia, we have most of the businesses are what we call SME, right? Small, medium enterprises.
That's right.
Yes, and the SMEs, while they are very agile in their operations, they usually lack in resources, whether it's manpower or investment in tech. Now, imagine like selling offline. Maybe you have a physical store. Maybe sure. Upcoming Ramadan, you have a bazaar or a kiosk. You have your e-commerce, your brand.com, your marketplaces, your TikTok Live, and so on. How would you kind of combine all of this and invest people to look after each channel and also invest the tech resources required? So now with a unified commerce platform, you can kind of streamline everything in one place. So then they can exponentially grow, their presence in multiple touch points at the same time. You are touching all the customers no matter where they shop.
Exactly. So all of this sounds a lot easier said than done, though, right? And when it comes to SMEs in particular, and let's talk about perhaps the micro SMEs. Sure. Have you seen the kind of suitable uptake and adoption of this when they actually realize, all right, we best also be online, even though we're pretty successful when we do our bazaars, when we go into the special weekend or festive-related events?
So I think for micro, usually they start as a passion business, right? So they want to know their customer, I have this great product, I really want to share it with friends. But I think what comes after that is also important, is keeping the relationship with your customers. I might see you at the bazaar this weekend, I really like your product. Let's say I bought a facial cleanser from you. Finishes in about a month or two. Okay. How do I restock? I have no idea how to be in touch. So for micro, I think their 0 to 1 might not necessarily be, hey, I need to be in all 10 channels at the same time. But what's important for them is, once I interact with the customer, can I keep in touch with the customer? That's where the technology comes in as well. So unified commerce, as big as it can scale, can also start very small. which is like, hey, when you buy from me, can I get you to join as a member for
Right.
my business so I can keep in touch and keep you updated? Ideally, we are dealing with people. Even though they're customers, they're still people, and we want to keep growing this community of customers.
Exactly. So what you're saying makes so much of sense, because particularly when it comes to wanting to have the kind of sustainability with the consumer that you've already been able to establish contact with, that's one way to go about it. What are some other trends perhaps that you have noticed in this specific unified commerce arena, particularly over, let's say, the past 6 to 8 months? We're also at a very interesting juncture where basically all pandemic related closures, etc., have finally sort of faded into the background, right?
Yep. So I think during the pandemic, accelerated e-commerce adoption for sure, right?
But only the first half, right?
True. So everyone was in a panic. They're like, oh my gosh, like
It's expanding.
Yeah, I have to jump on the bandwagon, and my business has to be online, which is great, right? So everybody had that awareness. But of course, like you mentioned, sustainability. It's an ongoing effort. It's not something that you kind of set and forget. So you sign up, you have to keep up with the technology and digital marketing trends. The channels keep changing, the algorithms keep changing. So how do you keep track of that? And post-pandemic, I think this year is a very interesting year. We're seeing all the pre-pandemic festivals, offline touchpoints come back.
Yes,
and we're having
in full force.
Yes, it's a great time to kind of interact with, hey, I saw this brand on social media. I finally get to meet the founder, get to know their brand story, get to experience. Because certain products, you still got to be in person to experience it. For example, perfume.
Fair
Right.
enough, fair enough. You may want to then go and buy what's your favorite, but you decide that in person, right?
Yes. So
Yeah.
certainly it's got to be experience in real life. But I think the experiential experience might have changed over the years. Those days we walk into a retail store, they're stocked up with a lot of SKUs. We pick it up and then, we bring it home. But nowadays, it's also more kind of becoming more of a showrooming kind of experience. You go, you touch, you feel, you experience. I can place an order, but get it delivered to me. Or vice versa. I can browse online, pick up offline. And it's really up to the consumers nowadays, right? It's their choice. Where they want to browse, where they want to make the end purchase is entirely up to them.
Exactly. So from there as well, speaking about omni-channel, but at the same time though, consumers do have a tendency to follow their favorite brands, etc., on different social media platforms. So how do we get around that from a business perspective?
So of course, I believe that as a business, if you have the capacity, you should be everywhere. Because different channels and different, especially social media platforms, cater to a different buying audience. For example, some people really like to browse TikTok because they want to see the product in action. Personally, myself, I love reading reviews. I'm more of a reading person.
Sure, same. I'll look for the review first and then perhaps I'll consider it.
Yes. So you can't kind of discount a different target market or a different social media just because. And of course, as a business owner, then how do you kind of consolidate all of this, right? So imagine trying to answer all the inquiries just on one platform alone could take one person the entire day. So if you are on 10 platforms, does that mean you need 10 people? That doesn't sound very efficient in terms of operations. So with a SaaS platform, now there are a lot of aggregators that kind of can pull all of this in one place. So that's also part of unified commerce, giving the same experience to all customers across different channels. So whether you're, inquiring from TikTok, sliding into my DMs, writing an email to me, to the business, all customers will experience the same response from the business owner themselves.
Fair enough. So it definitely is something for businesses to invest into and not really look at as much of an operational expense, but more of a business expenditure, right?
That's right.
Okay, fantastic. So moving along now into the interesting status that Malaysia has. So with a population of around 34 million, that places us with the 6th largest population in ASEAN. We're significantly behind, numbers-wise at least, behind even, let's say, Myanmar, Thailand, which even has 70 million. So does that actually mean there's going to be a ceiling towards the type of growth that Malaysia will be able to see when it comes to e-commerce and this side of the industry?
I think that population aside, there are many other variables that come into play, right? So for one, we talk about digital penetration and literacy. I think Malaysia stands, we're quite at the top. We have 3G, 4G, 5G almost everywhere now. It's really affordable to get connected. We have multiple options for the consumers and also for the business owners. Secondly, I think the disposable income for Malaysia compared to the ASEAN 5, our economic affluence, we are top, maybe a little behind Singapore. Yeah,
Sure.
and I think the last one, and this is what I'm really excited about being in this industry, is we have strong government support in this space. For example, we have the National E-commerce Strategic Roadmap. The first and second trust actually focuses on adoption and growing local businesses, which I think we have a lot of strong, interesting local businesses, local crafts, local food. Our durian is one of the biggest exports, and you know, we should tell more stories about this, right? We have a strong export opportunity with the local resources and local brands.
Exactly. So I think it's nothing to be laughed at, particularly considering the fact that we are also very active internet users, almost
Yes.
90% of us, right? So when it comes to us also being active internet users, let's look at something else which is quite interesting. So it's assumed that the internet economy will assume a much larger share of the overall economy for Malaysia itself in the coming years. So what are some of the potential economic or technological spillovers if this kind of a solid expansion goes on?
I think we have, like you said, we use social media a lot. A lot of the young generation is very savvy. I think we stand to be a competitive workforce, especially in this region, right? So training them with the right skills, you know, exposing them to the right resources, I think we can be a strong hub, at least in the region, for future tech companies. So these are our future workforce. So things like the advancement of AI, I think a lot of children nowadays are having their own YouTube channels. Like kids are having like, hey, I'm unboxing this is my Roblox YouTube channel.
Sure.
And these are things I never thought I would do as a kid, right? Like, and these are not teenagers, they're 5, 6-year-olds hosting their own shows, and they're learning a lot of skills beyond tech. You know, how to do public speaking, for example, how to articulate their passion very well, their thought processes. I think this is a very exciting time for our nation.
Exactly. So when it comes to tech and AI especially, I think specifically what can be seen when it comes to going back to unified commerce itself, about 71% of businesses actually employ AI-enabled chatbots for instant support.
Yes.
So has this actually been seen to be an effective mode of customer interaction? What are some of the pitfalls and what are some ways in which it can be made even better?
So at the end of the day, every transaction we're dealing with a human. I guess like from a consumer point of view, when we call or when we engage a customer or helpline, we want to speak to a human. The chatbot can streamline and maybe make it more efficient, maybe pre-filter certain questions. We get information from the customer first so that we can better assist them. But a truly full 100% chatbot, I think that might not work in this place. Yeah. People still want to have that human touch, you know, especially in an emerging market like Malaysia. So I think we use it sparingly. We improve efficiency, but we still need the human touch, especially in the customer service area.
Yeah, definitely. Just so that you can actually maintain that presence and also not seem, quote unquote, sombong perhaps in the marketplace. Okay. All right. So from there, Wai, I'd like to go into digging a little bit deeper on some of the things that have actually been done very recently, which may help to grow the competitiveness of local customers, which is, of course, consumer goods, which is, of course, the implementation finally of the 10% sales tax as of 1st of January 2024. Thoughts on this?
So I think, I mentioned earlier that we have very strong local products. They might not be branded for an international market, and sometimes we always feel that, oh, the grass is always greener, right, on the other side. So imported goods seems to have better quality. Not necessarily. I think, you know, with the tax, then it gives the domestic players a chance to level the playing field. So for example, I think food is one of our strongest selling point, right?
Sure.
Local food, the local flavors, local spices, especially. Then this is something that we import a lot, but I think this is something you don't get anywhere else. So with all these taxes, I think it also creates the awareness among the local consumers that, hey, let's look inward. let's look back at home. What do we have? Have we tried this? Instead of always like going out, or when you travel overseas, you're like, what's the local thing here that I want to buy as a souvenir, right? But how come we don't do that for our own products? So definitely, it might seem very shocking to impose this tax, but ultimately, I think it's for a better good. Yeah,
exactly, because also it's only for goods which are valued above 500 as
Yes.
well. Below 500 ringgit, and then sold, of course, by registered resellers.
Yes.
So I wanted to expand the discussion on this point a little further with looking at, of course, what's happened in Indonesia. Very recently, they have finalized that they're banning TikTok Shop.
Yep.
And this, of course, is because consistently TikTok has continued to violate Indonesian regulations for
Yes.
in-app purchases.
Yep.
So also looking at the wider fact that TikTok Shop, especially in more mature markets such as the US, it has sort of reached that watershed level whereby people are, and a man actually did this about a month ago, he sold a used pencil. So it's come to that kind of a point whereby the platform has invested so very much in subsidizing the customer experience via discounts, free shipping, etc. It's led to a huge decline in the kind of value of products that you find online. Thoughts on this?
So I think while we are an emerging market, commerce is still, compared to the global standards, we're still relatively nascent. So brands are beginning to understand the need to implement technology. And of course, for the consumers, well, everybody loves a good discount, right? That's how we kind of start our shopping journey. But I think consumers are getting more savvy as well. With businesses and brands being on multiple channels, they now have options. They have options, and then they can actually compare. They can compare that, hey, when I shop from a brand.com's website versus a marketplace, what is the difference? Once I get to know this brand a little better, why would I continue to support this brand versus just buying because there's a free shipping coupon?
Sure.
Yeah. So I think with this, yes, social media is very attractive, right? So it's a lot of music, a lot of movements, a lot of memes, a lot of cartoons, right?
Very addictive, actually.
Yeah, so it's like what we call shoppertainment, right? So you kind of browse it for entertainment, but because it's so seamless, you just like add to cart, and before you know it, it's like, hey, I've got a new parcel again. And also because they make returns very easy, but that's actually hurting the business owner, right? So every time you return a product, who bears the cost? Someone has to bear the cost, and then it messes up the inventory. And then at the end of the day, it's like, is this a loyal consumer, or is this consumer really buying my product because of my product, or it was just one of those late night scrolls, right? Yeah. So I think there needs to be education on both sides, for the consumers and also for the brand owners, building a sustainable business, and customers spending wisely. Be more savvy where you spend and how you are spending your money, because that opens up another topic, which is scams. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Which
so
is a huge issue actually in Malaysia.
Yes. So I think the latest one that I got was an SMS from quote-unquote Post Malaysia asking you to click a link for your tracking, right? So I know I didn't buy something recently, so that could not have happened.
Yes, that's a common one actually lately, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Sometimes whether you're savvy or not is one thing. The other thing is also in the midst of, let's say you're very busy and you accidentally click.
Absent-mindedly,
Accidentally click absent-mindedly, and how do you go about it, right? So many people have fall for all this, whether intentionally or unintentionally. I think there also needs to be a lot of education to the consumer, how to protect yourself, how to protect what is a scam link and what is the legit link, right? So how do we do that? I think it's a nationwide effort among all the ecosystem players.
Exactly, and I think it has to go on continuously, and perhaps even in the near future, it could come with some sort of an embedded message on every e-commerce platform.
Yes.
Just a reminder, a gentle warning, right? Okay, so from there, moving the conversation on, YY. Now, having a national digital strategy would also allow for a much more targeted approach and pooling of resources in order to just expand Malaysia's internet economy. Thoughts, of course, on, for example, the My Digital, which is a national initiative looking towards 2030. So how ready are we for 2030 coming along? And it's no longer even very far away, already in 24. It's mere 5 to 6 years.
Yeah. So I think, maybe a couple of years ago, people still think digital adoption is an option.
Sure.
The pandemic clearly showed us that it's a necessity. And maybe post-pandemic, people got a bit comfortable again, and they're like, yeah, my retail's doing really good, or, you know, I don't need to invest so much in digital. But I think that stems from not understanding why we need to invest in digital, right? So whether it's equipping your workforce, whether it's keeping your tech stack up to date so that it's protected from cyber threats. And readiness, it's really, it takes a village, right? Everybody needs to come together. It's not just people giving subsidies, it's not people just running workshops, but everyone needs to understand why they need to be a part of this. It doesn't matter whether you work in the tech industry or not. Everything is related. The moment you're connected to the internet, the moment you hold your phone, right? Like, hey, we're all in this together, and we need to move together. So I think one of the things that I experienced personally in this industry is that we focus a lot of the efforts, especially the offline outreach in the peninsula. So every time we go to East Malaysia, they're like, hey, you know, we want more of this, right? So it makes more sense for us to travel there and do the knowledge sharing rather than kind of bringing the Sabah Sarawak to Peninsula to attend the workshops.
Fair enough. You must also localize the context because, for example, Sabah and Sarawak also traditionally and unfortunately they have had continuing challenges with internet stability. Penetration is one thing, but having a stable enough connection to even do your WhatsApp to get your business orders.
Exactly. And it's interesting that you mentioned WhatsApp, right? Because we are so used to the speed of things that customers expect you to reply almost instantaneously.
Sure, unless you have an away message.
Yeah, so I think there's certain expectations from both the consumer and business owner when it comes to speed, what kind of access you have. And like you rightfully say, right, it's not consistent, consistent throughout the country. So there might be, you know, a big group of us that's kind of left behind. And if they are left behind, then I think someone's got to, you know, pull the weight, right? Like, so that we can move forward together.
Yeah, exactly. And the gaps also have to be layered with not only government initiatives, but at the same time also localization. And so actually doing that kind of outreach gets you to the ground.
Yeah, it's a public-private partnership. Yeah, so not only the government, so we have ecosystem players, and it's also important to take note, to include local community groups because they have the biggest influence. So it may be your, you know, kampong leader, or it could be a women's group leader,
Sure.
It could be your neighborhood's champion, right? So all of these people need to be part of the conversation as well.
Absolutely. So from there, moving along and spending a little bit of time looking at cyber threats from online scams to hacking, they've been one of the persistent concerns surrounding the internet economy. So what can businesses also best do? Because increasingly, we're also going to be having Malaysian customers using their digital banking and their e-wallets to be paying for transactions online rather than putting in their bank card details, right?
Yes. So I think this is a scary topic because a lot of people don't know what they don't know, right? So, so one is it's so seamless, it's so fast. It's scan a QR code, it's just tap your phone, right? Like for example, Apple Pay. And sometimes because it's so seamless and it just becomes a knee-jerk reaction that you kind of don't think about it, or a lot of times you're like, how much was it again? I don't remember. Did I pay for the right thing? I don't know. So I think for businesses, for tech businesses at least, you know, we continuously invest in cybersecurity. But for smaller business, let's say I'm selling shoes, right? And I'm an e-commerce seller. I want to set up my own website. I may not necessarily know which platform provides me the security. And when something happens, I do not know who do I go to or where do I go to.
What is the SOP in case there's a data breach?
Correct. So, and because a lot of the times they deal with one party, but actually as an e-commerce seller, you are dealing with multiple parties, right? It's not just the platform, it's not just a website, but there's the hosting, the domain name provider, the payments provider, logistic, and so on and so forth. So where does one get information on all of this? I think that what is lacking is also kind of a central hub for e-commerce business owners to kind of like, hey, this is my directory, for lack of a better word, where I can find all the information related to my business. And this is how I can contact the relevant parties, and how do I protect myself and my business.
So that is really food for thought, a centralized sort of a hub.
Yep.
Almost like a red room.
Yeah.
In case something does happen.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So when it comes to having policy which minimizes such threats, any recommendations?
I think this is a big topic, right? Like how do we kind of counter this, because technology is growing at an exponential rate, right? So today we might have, now it's text to video AI, right?
Correct.
And then we are talking about things like deepfake and everything. So it's advancing so fast that the regulations to catch up with it might not be fast enough. And how do we know that we are ready for what's beyond this? It's kind of hard to predict. So unfortunately, I think we're kind of playing a catch-up game here, right? It's
Yes,
like,
a little bit.
yeah, it happens, then we react, right? Versus the other way around, we prepare.
Having the infrastructure already.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the biggest challenge. I'm probably not the right person to kind of answer this question. Cybersecurity is something I know of, but not deep enough to kind of delve into it. But those are the challenges that I see, right? And it scares a lot of consumers and business owners. For example, I'm in a lot of Reddit kind of groups, right? So they're always posting screenshots. Is this a scam? Is this a scam? and sometimes you're like, but it looks really legit, right? Like how do you know? And do people know to ask these questions, right? So maybe among the urban youth, yes. But what about maybe our parents' generation? Would they know? Would they know if they fell for a scam? So I think it's a very scary topic. I think more people should talk about it, and we should all sit down and kind of figure out something that we can do now for the future.
Exactly. So do that future planning rather than, do it when something of a crisis level happens.
Yes.
So just to round off the discussion and end it, YY, so in what ways do you recommend businesses can leverage AI technologies to expand their reach and even online sales, international sales, aside from just them being virtual assistants?
Yeah, so I feel that AI is like a very big topic. People are very excited about
Gen
it.
AI as well, because we've gone beyond just having ChatGPT, right?
Yep. So I think every day there's like a different tool out there that's AI based, right? And it simplifies a lot of work. To be honest, I use it on a daily basis. It saves me a lot of time because the speed of it you just cannot, right? It's not humanly possible to do that. And which is great because beyond an assistant, it actually helps you analyze a lot of data very quickly, summarize it in a way where it's easy for comprehension. It helps businesses make decisions way faster, so your data informed. That's number one, right? Number two is it definitely helps as for brainstorming. Sometimes you run out of content, you just kind of need to like.
I think most recently I've seen it on LinkedIn. Let us help you write your post.
Yeah. I think like most brands or social media pages now, all the content is generated by AI. But I think that is where we need to take a step back and
the fine line, right?
Yes, it is great for content generation, but at the end of the day, who is consuming this information? We're still talking to human beings, right? So I think that personal touch needs to be there. Someone still needs to step in and edit it, be the editor, make a judgment call, right? Because even ChatGPT has the disclaimer at the bottom, right? ChatGPT will make mistakes, so don't take it 100%. But it's great. It's great for speed. It's great for batch processing, analysis, and so on. Get ideas, generate ideas, kind of brainstorm, and kind of give you some sort of outline or help you align your thought processes before you make decisions.
Exactly, because you also need to have that consistent sort of social media presence. And can I end by asking you, so what ideally would a social media posting calendar look like for businesses which usually prove to be, in the long term, successful when it comes to unified commerce?
It's got to be the human touch, right? So you got, number one, storytelling, never goes wrong. Now, how to tell a compelling story is really speaking to the customer. I'm not, the hard versus soft sell angle.
Sure.
Yeah, so you're trying like to show what benefit can a customer get from your product or your brand versus like, hey, buy this because it's cheap.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Wai, thank you so much for the discussion.
for
It's
having
been
me.
very insightful indeed. So there you have it. Well, that's all we have time for today. And of course, today's topic was looking at unified commerce and business sustainability. This has been Niaga Spotlight with me, Tamina Kaushi. We'll see you next Friday with more business analysis and insights. Here's to a productive week ahead.